Hey everybody, happy Monday. We are live getting ready to map and mark our 2019 year. How is it already almost 2019? I mean, I feel like I probably say this every year, most of us do, but where did this year go? Seriously. I literally am just blown away by the fact that it's December of 2018. Seems absolutely unreal. Luckily, though, I have a plan in place to help me process the rest of this year and go well into 2019. And that's part of what I'm going to be sharing with you today is getting together those foundational pieces of how to map out, mark out, whatever you want to say, your year, your whole entire year. And one thing before I dive deep into the thick of it is the one thing that you have to realize is that you have to take the time to do this, right? You can't, actually, I'm going to switch my microphone just a second. I didn't want like this to be my microphone for this, but one thing you have to do is you have to be willing to put in the work for this, okay? Listening to me talk about how to do this is not going to get it done for you, right? You can have the wisdom, you have to put it into place. We'll talk more about that in a second. I need to make sure that you guys can hear me because let me tell you, one time I did a webinar and thank goodness this one gal who was tuning in decided to Facebook chat, like try to video call me because my mic wasn't properly connected and they couldn't hear anything. And had she not done that, I would have done the entire webinar with no sound and probably would have cried myself to sleep. So I'm going to open this up. Oh, yeah, there I am. All right. So I will have this open as I'm going through everything. So if at any point you have questions, you have comments, you're like, whoa, wait, what? Amber, slow up. Let me know, right? I'm here to teach you. I have nothing that I'm trying to sell to you. I am literally just here to try and help you make a better year for yourself. You know, I hope that 2018 was an amazing year for you. Personally, mine have had just the most wild and crazy ups and downs. 2018, on one hand, has been one of the best years of my life. On the other hand, it's been one of the worst. Not going to get into that today, but if you know me, you've seen it all. But part of how I was able to work through the numerous tragedies that have hit my family is that I had a plan in place. I had the capabilities to say, I need a break, or I need to pull back a little bit, right? I need to relax. You might see me look down a couple of times. If you're friends with me or if you follow me on Facebook, one of the great things that happened, one of the most unexpected things was back in June on Father's Day, right? I opened up our curtains and we had this beautiful rose of Sharon bush right out front of our house that was in front of our windows. And I opened up the curtains and there were 2 kittens in this bush. It was a kitten tree. And despite my best efforts to say no, we ended up with 2 kittens. And one of them, her name is Sabrina. She's a black cat. They're both feral, right? They both were. Just in the last 2 weeks, again, we got them in June. In the last 2 weeks, she has decided that like we're BFFs, and she does not leave me alone, especially when I am working. She's worse than my kids. So if you see me like this a few times, it's me trying to push her away. She does have claws though. She doesn't ever try to scratch me, but she will like grab me, be like, love me. I don't, you know. So if you see me go like this, just assume that my arm's getting clawed off and, you know, whatever. All right. So that said, we're going to go ahead and get started. Hopefully everybody that is here is ready to go. If you did not print out your workbook that I sent you via email, not a big deal. Please take notes though. As we go through this, there will be a limited time replay. The workbook is more for you to use. Again, there's a notes section in there, but the workbook is more for you to use after this workshop, for you to, again, actually do the work after you get the wisdom to do so. So I'm going to go ahead and screen share here. This is my first time doing it with 2 desktops, so hopefully I share the right screen. All right, looks like we're good here. I'm going to jump right into it. Wait for myself to catch up just to triple check that you are, in fact, seeing what you're supposed to be seeing. Perfect. All right. So again, this workshop is all about mapping and marking your year. So with this, we are going to develop a roadmap to profits. Now, if you are not quite familiar yet with the somewhat of a lunatic that I am, again, hopefully you at least know my name is Amber Temerity. I have been blogging for nearly 20 years. So we're talking back in the days of Zanga and GeoCities. Remember having to know HTML to build your own website? Cursor tails. Oh, we should bring those back. But I've been doing it, since the days of AOL, dial-up, all that fun stuff. Back when web blogging was actually something in which we share our stories. And I do think that we are circling back to those times, but obviously now it's more about sharing your value and sharing your wisdom and expressing it in such a way that not just engages your audience, but teaches them something in such a way that it makes them want to come back and learn more. So with that said, I actually launched Thrifty Guardian, my frugal living blog, back in November of 2015. It was my first time deciding I was going to do it for profit. My husband had been talking for over a year about how he was going to launch Mr. Money Mustache blog, and he was going to be the next Pat Flynn. And I'm like, oh yeah, I like that. Like, do that. Go for it, babe. And he didn't. He is opposite of me in a lot of ways, one of which is that he is a bit more of a procrastinator than I am, not quite a planner like I am, but that's okay, right? Opposites attract. So after a year of listening to him say he was going to make it happen and it wasn't happening, I said, okay, well, I'm going to do it then. I was making less than $3 an hour after paying for daycare. I had a great job at the local college, but it just wasn't cutting it. So April 2016 rolls around and I decide I'm going to quit my job. In about 6 months, I was making enough money through Thrifty Guardian, sponsored posts, affiliate marketing, and all. The first e-course that I launched, I had made enough money that I was making double what I was making at the college. And again, were it not for daycare, it was actually a really well-paying job, but we were looking at, over $1,000 a month in daycare costs. And so I decided it just wasn't worth it anymore. That said, again, I am a mother without a village. And why I put that in there, I'm not looking for a pity party, though if you want to throw some, hearts my way, I always appreciate that. But I don't have, or rather, we don't have family around to help us. All of my friends from college that I still have, for the most part, they either don't have kids, or they live in like St. Louis or Chicago. For those of you who don't know, I live in Springfield, Illinois, middle of the state. So I don't have any friends around to help me. I don't have any family around to help me. And when I quit my job over 2 years ago, I thought, oh, it's no big deal. I can do this. I've got this. Luckily, it says there, I specialize in systems because at that point, my daughter was just over a year old. My kids are only 16 months apart. So my son was about 2.5, and they didn't really nap. The only time my daughter napped was when she was attached to me because she was still nursing. And so it was really chaotic. Had I not plugged systems into place, had I not put plans into place like we're going to be talking here, built automated marketing systems for myself, built up, everything that I could, every plan that I could, I got it all the puzzle pieces into place, I would have lost my mind, right? Blogging is hard work. Don't let anybody tell you differently. It is so hard. And had I not gotten those systems into place, even 2.5 years later, if I didn't have planning done, if I didn't get my systems in order, it would be total chaos, right? My kids aren't in school yet. Well, they go to preschool, but that's a lot of back and forth. They don't go at the same time. So it's really, really important to me and to you to take the time to plan it out. So again, I'm going to repeat what I said at the very beginning of this workshop, and that is, don't just watch this and expect things to happen. Okay, I can give you all the wisdom and knowledge and all of the behind the scenes shots of my own systems. I can give it all to you. But if you aren't willing to take the time to sit down and plan it all out for yourself, for your blog, for your business, then please do us both a favor. Stop now, because you're just going to waste your time. Again, you're not going to watch this and be able to walk away with an entire year for 2019. It just doesn't work that way. That said, there are going to be 5 things that we're going to consider as we work through this workshop. First is your historical analysis. Next is the SWOT. Then profit projections, right? So we're going to go from what's been happening in 2018 to what is now happening in 2019, or what we hope to happen. Obviously, along with that, your growth goals. So we're thinking about not just email list growth, which is obviously something that should always be a goal of yours, but the social media platforms. What are you wanting to accomplish there? Even in terms of traffic, do you need to start, or do you need to focus more on that? So we'll talk about that. And then we are going to talk about holidays and vacations. It's especially fitting right now, given that we are basically just snowballing into the holiday season. It's going to be here before we know it. You need to be able to account for that. So again, we'll get more into that here in just a second. But first up is the historical analysis. Number of things that you need to look at when you sit down to do your historical analysis. So when you are going to sit down and look at 2018 and how it played out, you need to look at a number of different things. You need to look at first, how did your business budget play out? Now, I am hoping that you have a business budget. If you don't, then before you sit down to do any of this, please sit down and make a budget for 2018. I know that we have like 28 days left of 2018. I don't care. I want you to open up an Excel sheet, Google sheet, whatever the case may be, map out your budget for all of 2018. Because when you sit down to do 2019s, it's going to be basically copy, paste, tweak a few things, done. And that is part of what makes planning and systems so amazing to me and like alluring to me. I'm totally attracted to systems and strategizing, in case you haven't picked that up yet. Part of it is that once you have those systems in place, once you have that budget in place, it's so much easier to then, again, pull that over, copy, paste, tweak a few things. 2019's budget done. So then 2020 rolls around, copy, paste, tweak a few things, done. So please, again, if you don't have 2018 budget done, track every expenditure you had in terms of your website, in terms of maybe you paid for lead or Buffer or Hootsuite or your ESP, whether it's MailChimp or ConvertKit or whatever email service provider you're using. Every expenditure, every expense that you had for 2018, get it in there. Because not only, again, will it make 2019's budget a lot easier, it's going to make your taxes a lot easier. You don't want to sit down in another month and go, okay, now let's try to piece all of this together. Get it done now. Because then once you have that, that's, again, where this historical analysis comes into place. So you're going to look at, how did your budget play out? Did you hit your profit goals? Did you spend more money than you thought you were going to spend? How much money you thought you were going to spend, right? What sort of salary were you able to pay yourself? Were you able to afford a VA or a website designer, a graphic designer? Look at all of that. Look at what your biggest money makers are. So again, what I do is I use QuickBooks, but also because I am, again, a little bit neurotic when it comes to my systems and my strategic plans, I do use Microsoft Excel as basically an at-a-glance quick cheat sheet of what all I've got going on. I print out that spreadsheet at the end of the year, and I grab my highlighter. If you know me, you know I'm a big fan of pen to paper, or in this case, highlighter to paper, and I highlight where my biggest money makers came from. Are they coming from affiliate marketing? Are they coming from e-courses? Are they coming from sponsored posts? Are they coming from your one-to-one clients or whatever? Or maybe you do group programs. Figure that out, because that you are going to obviously want to give more attention to in 2019. By identifying these big money makers, you are able to grow them and make even more money. And you can then even implement systems, which again, we're going to talk about here in a minute, implement systems to then automate parts of that as much as you can. So, let's say, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here, but like, let's say you know that you've got an affiliate that always brings in a few $100s in the first few weeks of January. Why would you not then make a plan, knowing that that affiliate can make you big bucks in a short amount of time? Make a plan to schedule out posts on Facebook or in your Facebook group or on LinkedIn or wherever your audience is. And then along those lines, look at what you attempted, maybe flopped or didn't do as well as it could have, should have, as well as you wanted it to, right? Maybe you ran a group program that you wanted to sell out at 20 and you only hit 10. Is there still enough of a profit margin there in terms of not only what you spent, but the time that you spent? Is there still enough of a profit margin there that would make it worth running again? Did you learn enough from what happened with that launch to better it in 2019? Or is that maybe one you should look at just eliminating? And so then again, there you see, what should you focus more on? Maybe you were making a lot of money. You were doing really well with that. But things have gotten kind of stagnant because while you were working on making money and doing hitting those sales, you kind of neglected your email list. And so you're still just pitching to the same few thousand people right now. Maybe then that tells you that you need to focus more on your email list growth, right? If your sales have slowed down in 2018, maybe what was your best moneymaker in January is now stagnant and not making anything here in December. Then either learn from your mistakes, or maybe it is because you're pitching to the same few thousand people that you've been pitching to all year. You need fresh blood, need fresh faces. So that said, right, we're still looking at 28, still thinking on that. Next is then your SWOT. If you have purpose planning and profits, my blogging planner, massive planning pack that I released a few weeks ago, then you've got an entire workshop like this dedicated in your SWOT. If you do not have P3, again, my massive blogging pack for planner, my massive planning pack for bloggers. Woo! I'm going to still go over what SWOT is in a very general term. You can always Google it if what I say is unclear, again, or ask questions. That's what I'm here for. But SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. I first learned about SWOT when I was in AmeriCorps. For those of you who are unfamiliar, AmeriCorps is basically like the domestic Peace Corps. But I was stationed here in America. I was stationed here. It's actually how I started working in education. And during one of our trainings, my AmeriCorps leader did a SWOT training for us. And the first time I heard this, despite my love for, systems and goal setting and all of that, I was like, this seems just a little silly, right? Mind you, I was 19 years old, so, not quite as smart as I am 12 years later. But I saw this and I'm like, I don't know. But obviously, I went ahead and did it anyway. Can't, got to follow orders with that. So I went ahead and did it. And after I did it, that is part of what opened my eyes to the fact that I love systems and strategic planning, but that I also love education. And that is why, again, I ended up working in higher ed for about 7 years, but also why I do what I do now. It opened my eyes to the fact that I love to teach. I love to share my skills and my wisdom. And so that's what you're going to look at here. And again, I cannot stress this enough. Please take the time to actually sit down and do this. Don't be like 19-year-old me who, thought, I could do this in 5 minutes and it's whatever, this is kind of silly. I know who I am. I know in a job interview and you're like, what's your strengths? Oh, I'm super organized. What are your weaknesses? I just work too hard, right? Who hasn't done that before? Don't do that with this one. The whole purpose of it is that it not only shows you or helps you, flesh out your own strengths and weaknesses, which again, going back to the historical analysis, will play into part here and then also 2019. But it helps you identify maybe what you might want to consider outsourcing or what you might want to focus more on in 2019. So again, looking at strengths. What are your special skills? What makes you and your offerings especially valuable and unique? What is it that makes you the person I should buy from versus person A, person B, person D? Why should I see you? Made that one up myself. So good, I know. But seriously, why are you the one that your audience should buy from? What makes you special? Write it out. Take pride in it, because I promise you, if you focus in on that part, really, again, take the time to think about why are you so special, because you are. I hope you believe that. I hope that's why you're doing what you're doing, because you know that you and your offerings, your material are incredibly unique and invaluable to this world. Write it out. And then think about, what can you do better? How are your competitors better? I don't want you to get stuck in analysis paralysis or, comparing yourself to others, because that's not what we're trying to do here. It's more just an opportunity for you to identify what you can potentially do better, or again, what you might want to consider outsourcing. Like for me, one of my weaknesses, I know you can't tell by this beautiful teal and gold slideshow that I have here, but one of my weaknesses is absolutely, I am not a good graphic designer. I am not good, like when it comes to font pairings. I'm lucky if I could name 5 fonts off the top of my head. It's not at all a strength of mine. It is most definitely a weakness, and I will own that. And so when there are times where I need, if I've got a huge launch coming my way, then I know that I need to make note of having somebody do my graphics for me. Or I know I need to make note that getting my graphics done is going to take me a lot longer than writing out the actual content, because I'm going to be going back and forth on Canva 1,000 times. There's no shame in admitting what your weaknesses are. And then you also got to look at your opportunities. What possibilities lie ahead? So again, going back to, what did you do really well in 2018? How can that roll into 2019? What doors do your strengths open to you? So again, I love to teach. I have no problem teaching online any more than I teach in person. And so for me, again, thinking about the fact that not only do I love to teach, but I love to teach about blogging. I love to teach about marketing. I looked at that, last year in 2017, and realized that I wanted to do more in-person workshops. And so again, looking at opportunities, started reaching out to my local community colleges, a few different not-for-profits, and offered up my services. And so maybe that's something you can consider. Maybe you do even better in person than you do online. Maybe looking into in-person workshops is something that you should do yourself. Or maybe you're a really good proofreader and realize that my possibilities is spelled wrong. Go ahead and become an editor, maybe. But then lastly, you want to look at your threats. And this was the one that really hung me up when I first did this, because I was like, nothing threatens me. What? But in real, being realistic here, you got to think about, are you keeping up with technology? Do you fail to plan, right? That's a big one here. Or are your weaknesses a threat to your growth? So maybe one of your weaknesses is you are a type A person. You're a bit of a control freak. I own that about myself. If that's the case, then maybe in 2018, you did spend way more time than you should have designing your website, when you could have outsourced that. But rather than recognizing that you are in fact weak when it comes to website design and building that up, you tried to do it yourself and you ignored it. And now your website looks, going back to maybe you have like cursor tails and it looks like you built it with GeoCities. Recognize that. Own it. Again, there's no wrong answer here. There's no nothing here that should be making you feel bad about yourself. You should own every single aspect of this SWOT, because in doing so, it makes it all the easier to then plan out in terms of yourself, in terms of outsourcing, and all of that together will lead to then more money in less time. And that is what we are all about here. So third, now the good stuff, profit projections. So again, circling back to the analysis, what did well versus what do you want to improve / eliminate? So again, if you do not yet have the workbook, like maybe you just tuned in on Facebook or on my email list, be sure you comment so I can get you a copy. But in the third page of it, it is where you're going to take what did well versus what you want to improve or eliminate, and you're going to start plugging that in. Then, if you don't yet have a list of everything that already exists that you have to sell, so we're not thinking like where you're sitting there going, oh, I think I'm going to launch a mastermind in May. Nope, that is your creative ego talking. I need it to be quiet while we work through this, because goodness knows if you are a creative mind, as you probably are if you're here, you have that tendency, right, to get pulled in 1,000 different directions because you are a creative genius and you've got, 1,000 different ideas as to how you're going to make money, as to how you're going to grow your email list, all of that. Maybe you have, 10 different websites built because you have like 10 different niches you want to be a part of. You need to rein it in. And so I don't want you even thinking yet about what it is you might want to do in 2019, whether that's, launching an e-course or developing a mastermind group or writing a book. Rein it in, pull it back. Just list everything that already exists that you have to sell. And with that, include the prices with it, because that's another thing you're going to want to look at is, let's say you had an e-course, an evergreen e-course that did really well in 2018. Would raising it another $50 make your life easier? And then that might be a few less people you have to worry about targeting. Or maybe, by raising it $50, you could get $50 more per sale and it doesn't impact the amount of time or energy you put into marketing. Think about that. And then make a list of every affiliate opportunity you already have. So I'm not saying you're going to sit here and think, oh, I should see about being an affiliate for Amber, or I should see about being an affiliate for this great e-course I just finished up. Pull it back. Just make a list of everything you already have. And then again, include the commission offered with that. Get them in a Google or Excel sheet. Again, big fan of spreadsheets here. And then you'll want to note which ones can do especially well and make it a plan to figure out how you'll market these more and when. So as I mentioned earlier, I market, I'm an affiliate for Healthy Wage, right? It's a website in which you can bet against yourself to lose a certain amount of weight. And reviewing Healthy Wage and the fact that I won almost $2,000 from them, that post tends to go viral, especially on Pinterest, because everybody's got those New Year's Eve losing weight and being healthier. Last I checked, Healthy Wage offers a $60 commission per sign-up. So again, does really, really well in January. So you can bet that right now I've got lots of pins relating to that post already circulating on Pinterest. I've got posts scheduled because, believe it or not, I do schedule out a month ahead of time, especially as we close in on the rest of the year, because I don't want to be working during the holidays. But then I have a guest posting opportunity that I'm planning to do, in which I'll be linking this Healthy Wage review post. So really focusing in on, again, how I can market it even more and do even better with that. So if there's something where you've got a post or an affiliate opportunity that ties to New Year's, or you've got one that ties to back to school, or you've got one that ties to the summertime and maybe planning things out for the kids, whatever it is, make note of it so that you can then write in whatever month in that workbook I gave you, whatever month that you know that affiliate opportunity is going to do well, make note of it, and then work backwards in terms of when you need to start pushing it, when you need to start maybe putting it more on Pinterest, or when you need to start talking about it more in your group, or when you need to schedule a webinar or a workshop or a live stream about this product or service. Get it on paper, get it in that workbook or on your own calendar, whatever the case may be. Because if you don't plan ahead, right? One thing that I saw back in October, I saw this constantly, was when we were all pushing the Genius Bloggers Toolkit, right? Everybody's an affiliate for that because it's amazing. It absolutely is. It's you will never find a better product for the price. But I saw so many people talking about how they didn't make any money, or they weren't going to make any money because everybody's an affiliate. Nobody wants to buy from little old me. When really, it was that they didn't plan ahead, right? Like it was like a week before the Genius Bloggers Toolkit, and they started maybe talking about, or like started being more present online and started getting back into the groove of networking within groups. But they didn't make a pre-roll video. They didn't write a blog post to review it. They, weren't nurturing and wooing their email list. And then they're sitting there wondering why they flopped. And I'm not judging. I'm not saying, well, haha, I made a ton of money from it. But these last 2 years, I can tell you we're looking at a few $1,000s in less than like a week's time, with very minimal effort. Not because I have a giant audience, right? It's not because of that. It's because going back to what I just said, I planned ahead, took the time to nurture my audience, making note of, tagging people that would be more apt to buy versus not. I made my opt-out page ahead of time so that people could opt out of the Genius Bloggers Toolkit series and still stay on my list. All of these things were done ahead of time so that when it came time to market for this affiliate, I was able to do so with A, very little stress, B, very little time in terms of what I would have had to have been doing if I scrambled to try and get it all together at the last minute. But then also had that time and space to answer questions, because that's, you're going to get people wanting to know more. And that's a good thing. Those are the people that are going to buy. You don't want to be trying to answer questions from a dozen people while, again, trying to write a really quick review post or trying to do a live stream. You got to work backwards with this. So then from there is when you're going to set your monetary goals for each quarter. So looking at, like I said, what products and services you have. When did those do really well in 2018? You're going to want to block out that time for 2019. Maybe for example, that over the summer, your sales drop for whatever reason. It's slower time for a lot of people. Then that's going to be a time where your monetary goals should be a little bit lower, and that's okay. They should be flexible. They should be, for each quarter, because every quarter is going to be different. That's how this works. It's not something where you can say, I'm going to make $10,000 every single month. Because then let me tell you what, when you hit April, for example, and you only make you make $4,000, you fall short of that goal, guess what's going to happen for the rest of the year? Chances are good, because you already failed to plan. Now you failed at hitting your monetary goal. You're feeling down and out. You're going to start bordering on burnout. You're going to start struggling. You're going to fall behind with your Facebook marketing and your LinkedIn marketing, or whatever the case may be. Maybe you forget to upload or load up your Tailwind, and now your Pinterest stats are dropping and everything comes crashing down because you set a goal basically for the entire year that didn't fit in with what you are actually planning to do and when. So again, you're going to want to take time to think about what is going on in each quarter. I mean, you could even break it down even further to each month. There's nothing wrong with that. The more specific you can be, the better. You want to set challenging goals, but you also want to set goals that are realistic. So give yourself a little bit of space to struggle a little bit, try and push outside your comfort zone, grow a little bit more. But you also want to set goals that don't leave you all of a sudden flopping and falling on your face and feeling bad about yourself. So, if you're somebody who has averaged about $1,000 a month for all of 2018, don't go into 2019 going, in March, I'm going to make $10,000. Yes. Because again, it's going to go back to what I just said. You're going to flop. You're going to border on burnout. You're going to feel bad because you set yourself an unrealistic goal. Be realistic with your planning. Challenge yourself a bit, but don't be so crazy that you set yourself up for failure. And then, as I said, plug in profit. What needs to happen when to hit said goals? So here's where you're going to look at your analysis, cross out what you eliminate, circle maybe what you want to improve on, or maybe star what you want to improve on, circle what you want to keep, and just keep the momentum going. Plug all of that into that worksheet that I gave you, or again, if you have your own calendar that you prefer to use, I don't care what you use. I mean, I don't care if you draw a grid on a piece of scrap paper in the back of your kid's coloring book. Whatever is going to get you to put pen to paper and actually do these plans, it makes me happy. Then now we are going to look at your growth goals. So once the sale, want you when you're more marketing or more, focusing on your own products versus somebody else's, that's when you're going to look at what gaps exist in which you can really focus solely on growth. So again, if you are somebody who the summertime is rather slow in terms of sales for whatever reason, then that should be the time that you get your little behind into Facebook groups and start networking with people. And I don't mean like dropping links and pitching yourself, right? Because that's not what we're doing here. We're looking at growth, looking at sales. You want to look at making those genuine connections and letting it lead from there. Or maybe that is a time where you want to be running Facebook ads to grow your email list. Plan that out, because that then you might want to increase your monetary goal for that time period, because you know that your expenditures in terms of what you're going to spend on those Facebook ads might be a little bit higher. That's why typically people are like, well, why would you not set growth goals first? Because that's what you need to make money. I'm coming at this from a perspective of you already have some sort of email list established. You already have some of your systems in place, right? If you've only been doing this for like 6 months, then you might very well want to focus on growth first, because blogging is hard, and blogging isn't something that you make money overnight. So if you are less than 6 months into this, or if you don't have an email list, then you might want to flip these. But again, assuming that you at least have an email list, maybe you've dabbled in Facebook ads a little bit, then that's where you want to think about what it is you are going to grow. And another thing to think of here that I failed to get on the slideshow is you don't want to think about growth just in terms of your stats, which, I've got there, but also in terms of your professional growth. So if you know that there's a time where sales are going to be slower, or for me, again, there are certain months where I focus way more on sponsored posts or affiliate marketing and take on less clients. I do so willfully, because then that also gives me the space to then focus on professional growth, whether that's taking an e-course I've been eyeing, or working through the Genius Bloggers Toolkit, or hiring a business coach, or whatever the case may be. You want to make space for that. And then you also want to make a list of what platforms, including email. I can't say that enough. I really hope that email list growth is one of your top priorities. Pinpoint which you most want to grow and when. Set a solid goal. I am all about specifics here. Don't just say, in July, I want to get around 200 followers on Pinterest. There are so many things wrong with that that I won't get into, but you want to be very specific. And so if you want to say, I want to gain 200 followers on Pinterest in July, that's fine. But I'm not kidding when I say you need to eliminate that around or about or approximate. Be very specific here, because that is very much going to help you not just have that goal in mind, eye on the prize. Again, hopefully not too much of a challenging prospect, but also enough that you are pushing yourself a little bit farther. But when you say around 200, that automatically tells your brain, oh, if I hit 180, that's good enough. Oh, if I hit 150, that's good enough. And suddenly you're at like 146 and you're like, that's around 200. It's fine. Be very specific. And then don't berate yourself should you fall a little bit short. But I'm not kidding when I say that if you put around, approximate, about, whatever the case may be, it's just like how procrastination works. If you say, I'll finish this about 10 days, guess what you're going to be doing on the night of the 9th day? You're going to be working on that project, because just like procrastination and projects work, the time that you grant something, or it will grow to fit whatever it is you are putting out there. So if you're saying around, about, approximate, you're granting yourself way too much space and that is not the end. And then lastly, account for breaks. Please. I know, and believe me, when I first launched in November of 2015, again, I had a 10-month-old who was still nursing. So I was literally every 2.5 hours around the clock pumping. So I would have enough milk with her for daycare. I had a barely 2-year-old little boy who, if you've had a 2-year-old, that alone, I feel like I should get some extra hearts and loving for surviving that while working, especially outside the home. But I went hard. And there's always going to be a time, whether you are new to this, you've been doing it for a year, 2 years, 5 years, there's always going to be times where you've got to go hard, right? That's how the money gets made. You can't just expect to work 20 hours a week every single week and think you're going to get better and be better. You've got to sometimes push yourself really hard and stay up late or get up early. But conversely, you then have to account for breaks. You have to account for times where you're going to want to go on vacation, or you're going to want to, maybe sit down and celebrate Christmas with your family and not have to be on Facebook at any point throughout the day, right? When was the last time you actually disconnected, put down the phone for an entire day? You should be able to do that. You need to factor this into your action plan and grant yourself that space to relax, to unwind. Don't tell yourself you're going to, be on your laptop when traveling across the state to see your family for Christmas. Because especially if you've got kids in the back, you're going to be so distracted every 5 minutes when they're wanting a snack or wanting you to fix their tablet or, wanting to play a game. You're not going to get any work done. So why stress yourself out thinking you're going to try and get this work done when you could instead account for breaks? Because not only that, but when you have tragedy strike, which I hope you don't, but even minuscule ones, right? Like back in May of this year, I got poison ivy bad. It took doctors 2 weeks to even figure out what it was. I'd never had poison ivy before. My body reacted very much the way that most people react to hives. If you ever seen the Will Smith movie Hitch, that was my face. I looked like the Michelin Man. Like, it looked like you could stick a needle in me and I would pop. I was so swollen and puffy and red. You can bet that I wasn't doing live streams. I had it for a month. Had I not had those systems in place, had the strategic plans in place to allow myself to go, I'm not going to be visible for a little bit, at least not physically visible. Had I not done that, my business may not have crashed and burned, but you can bet that the rest of the year would have been me just trying to survive. There would have been no growth. There would have been no, last month was actually my best month in business ever. This month, even though we're only 3 days in, I can almost guarantee you will actually beat November. And that is, again, on top of not just having poison ivy for the month, but many other things that have happened with my family, many other heartaches that we had. It happens. Life happens. And you've got to account for that in your action plan. So now that we've got all of that, for each month, plug in what you'll be marketing, selling that month, and what area of growth you'll be focusing on, if any. If this is going to be a big month where you're going to be trying to do a lot of sales, and you're going to be working hard, you're going to be pushing hard, maybe don't worry about growth as much that month. Or maybe maybe take the time to schedule out some posts on your Facebook page or your group or on LinkedIn. Buffer, I think, allows for 3 social media platforms for free. So maybe you want to get into Buffer and schedule stuff out so that you've still got that presence. You're still being visible on these platforms, but you don't have to worry about it, right? The only thing you have to worry about is engaging with the people who engage with you, and you can focus solely on marketing and selling. You also want to look at whether any of your sales will be overlapping or running within 1 week of each other. So, like, going back to, if you are an affiliate for the Genius Bloggers Toolkit or for Ultimate Bundles in general, if there's a bundle that you're going to be kind of, I don't want to say bombarding your email list with, but if you're going to be going hard pushing that, don't turn around the next week and try to sell them on your e-course about blogging or your one-day workshop about email list growth. It's not going to work, because they're either going to unsubscribe because they're like, okay, enough, please. I'm not on your list for you to sell at me. Or they're going to see you as just somebody who is always pitching. That's going to hurt your reputation. You want to be really mindful of the time there. You want to be balanced. You want everything to flow really nicely. And then make it a point to look at this plan on the 1st of every month. This is why I am such a big proponent of putting pen to paper and actually writing out. There's not just the psychological benefit of what happens with those physical motions and actually writing it all out. But when you've got it on paper, you could stick it up on the wall behind your computer, or, I actually have this giant, it almost takes up my entire wall, year visual organizer. It's a whiteboard kind of thing. It's right across the room from me. It's big enough, though, that I can see it. And I look at it constantly, but especially on the 1st of every month, because then I know what I've got going on, so that should something happen, whether it's a kid gets sick or I get poison ivy again, please God, no. Or, something else happens, or I want to just take a day off. I know what I've got coming up. I know what's going on in that month. I can then grant myself the ability to do so. And that's what I want from you. I want you to believe wholeheartedly, if nothing else, that making this plan of action, printing out the little worksheets I sent you and putting your pen to paper, it doesn't have to take you all day. In fact, depending on what, if you've already got a business budget done, you've already been doing a decent job with tracking and planning, it might only take you a couple hours. But if you take the time to sit down and actually do this, those couple hours will pay for themselves tenfold in terms of reducing your stress, in terms of reducing the chaos that often comes with blogging, in terms of, no longer having to struggle to make ends meet, to worry about, am I going to make enough money this month to pay my bills? You can put an end to all of that just by giving yourself a few hours to get this plan of action written out. So please stop wishing and start doing. I hope that if you need to watch this replay, watch the replay, but then get to work. So with that said, again, there's Nothing to sell here, nothing to see here. But if you should have any questions, please comment below. Let me know. I'm happy to answer any questions. You want anything clarified? Or you can always email me. Or if you have me on Facebook, please feel free to reach out on Facebook. I'd like to think I am a fairly open person most of the time. So if there's anything where you are sitting there, maybe you've got that pen and paper in place and you're sitting there and you're just kind of staring at it going, I have no idea where to start. Please email me, Facebook me, whatever the case may be, and go, Amber, I'm sitting down like you told me to. I've got my pen in one hand. I got my paper here, and I'm stuck. Will you check back in the hour? I promise, depending on what's going on, that I can do that. I can. You don't have to be one of my clients for me to want to see you succeed, for me to want to celebrate you, and to be able to, see you around on Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever the case, on Twitter, and go, oh, yes, here she is killing it. I'm so excited. I want to be able to do that for you. I want you to go get these plans into place. Patty says, thank you. Well, thank you, Patty, for tuning in. I love you. I want to see you succeed because I fully believe that this world, as beautiful as it is, could be all the better. And a big part of that comes from us living out our dreams, celebrating each other's dreams, and finding the freedom that comes from profiting from your passions. So again, if you have any other questions, anything at all, comment below, reach out to me, let me know. I'm going to go take a Claritin because I don't know if you all picked up on the fact that my allergies started going a little bit crazy halfway through this workshop. So sorry about that with the voice change. I sound a little bit like a prepubescent boy, but whatever. All right. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your Monday. If you're in my Pinterest Pals Facebook group, I would very much encourage you to tune in tomorrow night, as I will actually be spotlighting one of my most favorite people. Her name is Lucy Seligman. She runs thanksforthemeal.net. She's got something really exciting to share with everybody that will come with a special offer from me. So please, if you are not in Pinterest Pals, look it up on Facebook and come join us. Otherwise, be on the lookout because I'll be posting the details on that here in a little bit. But again, if you need anything at all, I'm here. Otherwise, I will talk to you all later, and I hope you have a beautiful rest of your night.